GolfNewsRI presents the Golf Dudes Podcast. Here are the dudes.
And welcome everybody to another episode of the Golf Dudes Podcast. I'm Joe Calabro. Thanks so much for tuning in on this Thursday. Hope everyone's having a great day, a great week, great month. Hope everyone's doing well. A couple things to get to. We do have the Chris Francoeur interview coming up in just a few minutes. So that was a really fun conversation. If you haven't watched it yet, we talked about everything from his time at URI to being in the pros now and living that kind of pro golf life. And we talked about this 58 at Point Judith and a few other things as well. So we're definitely going to get to that and coming up here in a few minutes. But first, we should tell you that the Golf Dudes Podcast is presented by Link Strengths. Link Strengths, of course, is transfusion in a can. They have 3 different flavors: the back 9, the front 9, and the regular transfusion. So check those out at liquor stores and country clubs near you. And thanks again to our friends at Link Strengths for supporting the Golf Dudes Podcast. Of course, the Golf Dudes Podcast streams on the GolfNewsRI Podcast Network. And of course, we're trying to keep up with the Expand Your Brand podcast, which I'm a huge fan of. Jeff and Austin really do a great job. So if you haven't been watching the Expand Your Brand podcast, definitely check that out. Check those episodes out. I think they're 3 episodes in, if I'm not mistaken. So check those out as well. And of course, the Golf News RI Podcast Network is sponsored by Vintage Cigar Lounge and Club. Sorry for the delay there for a second. So a few things to get to, then we'll get to Chris. Davis Chatfield back in action today at the Astara Golf Championship down in Colombia, and he's as I record this, he has teed off already. It is 2 over through 6 holes, so he needs a good round, obviously, to get inside the cut line heading into tomorrow. He's missed 2 straight cuts, and hopefully he's hoping to build some momentum as he has a few tournaments left on his Korn Ferry Tour exemption. Will Dickson is also in action at St. Simmons. At the St. Simmons Open down in Georgia on the G Pro Tour. As we speak, Will is 1 over for the round, hoping to make a run. He started the day 5 shots back of the lead, and he had a bogey on the par 5 on his front 9 as we are recording this podcast. So hopefully he can make a run, but great to have him back in action. And he has a busy schedule. Obviously, he's playing a lot of G Pro stuff, but he's also traveling all over the country for the Monday Qs for the Korn Ferry Tour. So it's going to be fun to watch him this year. I believe this is his 2nd full season as a pro. So it will be interesting to watch how he does, obviously, especially in those Korn Ferry Tour Monday qualifiers, because those can be huge, especially if you get on the Korn Ferry Tour event and make the cut, and who knows what happens. So those are a couple of things. Chatfield is down in Colombia, and he has 4 tournaments after this week. He has 4 tournaments left on his exemption. This is his 4th tournament. So, and he's hopefully he can start building some momentum here, building some confidence after missing the cut in the last 2. Obviously, he's not off to a tremendous start today so far, but plenty of golf left. And hopefully he can start building some momentum. What's crazy is, I don't know if you guys are on Twitter, maybe they even posted it on Instagram and Facebook for all I know. So the Korn, if you're on Twitter, excuse me, and you search Korn Ferry Tour, they show you the first hole at this club. The tournament's actually being played at 2 clubs down in Colombia. So if you search Korn Ferry Tour, they show you the first hole and they say, where your ball end up. And this first hole is a narrow, like little bit of a dog leg right. And it's crazy first hole. I would be in the trees for sure. I'd probably end up making like a 7. So it'd be fun to watch the scoring on that first hole, because that tee shot from what they showed online is narrow. It's funny. our guy Monday Q Info, he tweeted back at them. He said, "I'll put my ball in my pocket and go to the bar." So that was kind of a funny, funny thing. So if you have a chance to look at that, it's a pretty scary tee shot if you ask me. But that's why these guys are pros. So we'll keep track of all that obviously throughout the weekend. Also, college golf is back, which is exciting, gives us more content. Patrick Welsh and the Oklahoma Sooners are in action this weekend in their first spring tournament. Of course, Patrick was named the captain of the team, as we reported earlier in the week, earlier this month, or late last month, whatever it was. So we'll definitely be keeping track of him as well. So that's kind of what we have going on here. We have some other stories that we're working on. Hopefully that will come to fruition soon. But nothing I can unveil at this very second. So with that said, I know you guys are looking forward to the Chris Francoeur conversation. It was really fun, really great to catch up with Chris. I never really talked to him before this. So as far as like, in person type of thing, I've always talked to him, online, and I think I chatted with him a couple of times at the Northeast Amateur or whatever, but nothing, like this. So this was really fun. He's down in Florida grinding away and trying to make it in the pros. So we talk about everything from, his 58 at Point Judith, which was just a crazy round, to competing on these mini tours and what's next for him. He's PGA Tour Canada Q School is coming up in a couple months. So we also talked about regular Q School, Korn Ferry Tour Q School, which he obviously competed in and fell just short. So it was a great conversation, lots of good insight, and you really got the sense of what it's like being a pro golfer. So without further ado, here's Chris. And we are here on the Golf Dudes podcast, and we are delighted to be joined by one of the greatest URI golfers of all time. And he's currently a pro, grinding away on the mini tours. Chris Francoeur. Chris, thanks so much for taking a few minutes to talk to us today.
Of course, yeah. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. You turned pro. You're one of the contingent of pros from Rhode Island. With Will Dickson and obviously Davis Chatfield and obviously Patrick Welsh soon to come, and you're grinding away on the mini tours. You had a second place finish at the Tampa Open, and 13th in the minor league golf tour event. Just talk about what that's been like so far as a pro. It's interesting. Davis did an interview on a different podcast, and it was funny, but he was also serious. He said the challenge is when you become a pro golfer, you just wake up one day and turn pro, and then you got to figure out, what to do.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
what has that been like so far for you?
It's been good. I mean, this winter, like you said, I've just been grinding on my game and playing in some of these mini tour events just to get some competitive juices going. Going into some of those Monday qualifiers, and then Q School coming up in April. So, yeah, I mean, the pro life's been pretty good so far. I'm playing golf for a living, so can't really complain.
When you play these mini tour events, obviously, like the goal for you guys is to win, right? You're playing to win. You want to get that big check,
right?
As big as it whatever it is. But do you take some level of confidence away from those two tournaments that you played so far? Even though obviously you didn't get W's, do you take some level of confidence that knowing, hey, I can play with these guys. I can be out here. Is that a thing? Or are you just going straight for the wins?
Yeah,
I know
for sure.
balance,
I mean, a lot of these mini tour events, they're 1 to 2 days. So, you kind of have to tell yourself going into it, you have to go low, and then to, be able to perform and have a couple good finishes. It definitely gives you some confidence.
Absolutely. So we'll get back into the pro stuff in a bit, because I do think, the mini tours these mini tours have been something that I've been learning about as well, not really knowing about it previously because never covered anybody on the mini tours. You never really hear about them, so I'm trying to bring some attention to them. But as I mentioned off the top, you're one of the great URI golfers of all time. Gregg Burke, I had him on my podcast a month or two ago for the college golf series. He obviously spoke highly of you and everything that you've meant to him and to the URI program. Reflect on your time at URI. I mean, what was that like for you? The experiences that you got. Obviously, you won a number of tournaments. You were at the top of the leaderboard. Talk about your time at URI and how much it meant to you to play there and what that means to you.
Yeah, I mean, those 4 years at Rhode Island were awesome. I mean, it was a unique experience because of my last 2 years, the whole COVID thing. So, I mean, that brought me super close with all my teammates. We were close anyway, but all going through that together, and it really taught us all how to be gritty. Like we didn't really have a golf course to practice at because of COVID. Like the weather's not great, so it really brought us all together. Like we were always finding ways to get better, pushing each other to get better. So I mean, honestly, I would definitely not be where I am today without those 4 years at Rhode Island.
Your relationship with Coach Burke, he spoke obviously highly of you and everything that you've meant. So talk about that relationship. How important is that relationship to obviously or how important was it? How important is it? And what was that relationship like?
No, he was great. I mean, he was almost like a second father to me while I was there. We're still super close to this day. I talk to him all the time. I try and go back and visit Rhode Island whenever I get back home. So yeah, he's been great. Yeah, like I said, super close with him. He's a good golf coach. I wouldn't change a thing when I was there, so it was great.
Now you mentioned COVID. Everybody got an extra COVID year. And you used it to go to Louisville for 1 year, similar to how all these college basketball players usually get to go all different places. And it happens in golf as well. The decision to go to Louisville. What was that like, and what did you learn from going to Louisville for that 1 year?
Yeah, so we'll rewind a little bit.
Yeah.
My intention was to just turn pro after going to Rhode Island. But after talking with Coach Burke, he kind of pushed me to look at, going somewhere else to kind of develop my game a little more. So I can and credit that to him for kind of convincing me to look elsewhere too. I mean, I'm sure he would have loved to have kept me for another year, but yeah, he helped me a lot in that process. And then, the whole transfer portal thing, I entered the portal and was in contact with the assistant coach at Louisville, Matt Wernicke. We developed a relationship pretty quickly, and I thought it was a no-brainer for what they were looking for and what I was looking for. It seemed like it was going to work out really well, so that's how I made my decision to go there. When I got there, immediately I had a really good relationship with all the guys on the team and the coaches, and it was just the perfect fit. So it was great. Taking college golf to the next level. You're playing against the best kids in college golf and a really good schedule, competing for a national championship. So it was awesome. I wouldn't change a thing there either.
When you leave Louisville, when you get done with college, was your intent, or was there any thought to turning pro right away, or were you always going to play kind of that one last amateur circuit? Because obviously we'll get to the U.S. Amateur in a second, but I know you played in the Northeast Amateur. And you played a number of other tournaments as well. Was that always your intention, or was there a thought to turn pro immediately?
Yeah, I was always a little back and forth on it. Going through last spring trying to figure out what I was going to do. They came up with that Elite Amateur Series, like circuit, and I was into all those events. If I did choose to stay in amateur, but the one thing I really wanted to do was try and compete for a U.S. Amateur, which I had never done. Thankfully, I got in this year. So I'm glad it all worked out that way. I wasn't really in a rush to turn pro. I wanted to play in all these big amateur events because, I think the one I had only played in was the Northeast. So I wanted to, get used to traveling more, get used to, still playing against the higher level of competition. So I definitely wasn't in a rush to turn pro. And I think the way I did it was a good way to go.
Yeah, you like you said, you made it to the U.S. Amateur. You make it to the round of 32. Obviously, there's 2 rounds of qualifying. We had a couple of Rhode Island guys in there, as well as you. And they said the course was playing really tough. that week, the Ridgewood, I think Ridgewood Country Club in New Jersey, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
Talk about that experience. Obviously, like I said, you made a run, and that's what you wanted to do. What was that whole week like at the U.S. Amateur?
Yeah, honestly, it was probably the week where I played the most freed up golf I've ever played because I knew it was my last amateur event. Went in with really low expectations. Obviously, I wanted to win, but I definitely wasn't expecting to be leading after the first round, which was great. Even though like the stroke play medal doesn't get you anything, but
Mhm.
I learned a lot from that second round. Not playing so well, hovered around the cut line, but fortunately still made it in. But yeah, that week was awesome. I mean, I had my dad on the bag. My whole family was there, cheering me on. So, I mean, really good way to end my amateur golf career. So that was a really, really fun week.
Now you were turning pro anyways, obviously, but then making that little bit of a run and playing pretty well, like you said, overall at the amateur, did that give you extra confidence in that your decision to turn pro was right? Did you get some extra confidence from that week?
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, I always knew that I was a good player, but I had never really had the national exposure to kind of back it up. I played decent over the summer in those amateur events. I think I had a good finish at the Western, but other than that, I kind of had some middle of the pack finishes. So to be able to make a pretty good run at the USAM, especially right before turning pro, definitely kind of gave me some validation that the game was there, and I just had to keep working on the right things.
Now, after the U.S. Amateur, obviously, all eyes were on Q School, which is something that, and we talked briefly before we started recording here, that I'm fascinated in with just, the intensity of it, how it all works. So you do pre-qualifying in Nebraska, then you go to Ohio, and then New Mexico. Try to take people inside Q School if you can. I mean, obviously people know about it, partly because of our reporting. I certainly knew about it before, but never really understood it necessarily. I think you play Q School in one of the old Tiger Woods video games. That's how.
Yeah.
That's my first impression of Q School, and obviously that's not exactly what it's like. But
Right.
if you can take people inside Q School, what's it like? The intensity of it. What's a week like? The whole thing. Take people right inside with you.
Yeah, I think it's a lot more than people realize. So I think it might have been like 10 years ago. They got rid of the PGA Tour Q School, so now it's Korn Ferry Q School, and then you have some Q schools for.
But
Canadian
they're
Tour
actually
and
bringing
Latin
it.
Tour.
They're bringing PGA Tour Q School back.
Right, I think it's like top five and
Yeah.
and Korn Ferry go to straight to the PGA Tour, which is great. I mean, extra
Yeah.
incentive for some guys, but
Yeah. So anyway, continue. Sorry.
yeah. So Korn Ferry Q School, being my first time, I had to go to pre-qualifying. So there's pre-qualifying, first stage, second stage, final stage. I mean, Davis made it all the way through. That's basically what you have to do. You make it to final stage. You technically you get your card, but when you get to final stages, that's when you're playing for your starts. So it's a long process. I think I started in August, and I mean I made it to second stage, it was like middle of October. So it's a long process. The weeks in between, you're kind of you're just trying to keep grinding to keep your game where it's at. Because I mean, pre-Q and first stage, I was playing really solid. So, a lot of the qualifiers, they're spread out over a couple of weeks. There's, the first two sites for first stage will be this week, and then you got another week for the next two sites. So there's a lot of time in between. But yeah, you're just trying to play as good as you can, and then in between rounds when you're there, just try to get off your feet and get your mind right. So that's the biggest thing is, just getting your mind right. You can kind of drive yourself crazy in between rounds if you're not careful. So you just really got to be mindful of what you're doing and just keep the pedal down.
Well, they say golf is mostly a mental game anyway, right?
Absolutely.
So when you're in these Q School rounds, when you're in the middle of a round, how aware are you of where you are? How aware are you of what you need to do? Like, is that something that you're constantly looking at, or do you kind of put the leaderboard away for the first few rounds and just play? Or how does that? What's the balance there?
Yeah, I usually try to keep the leaderboard tucked away. I think that's just one extra thing to think about, and it's really not. I wouldn't say it's not worth it, but you can just trying to think of different scenarios that could happen and kind of will sway you away from your game and what you're trying to do out there. So I'll look at the scores in between rounds, but while I'm on the course, I don't really look at the leaderboards unless you're playing in a tournament and there's a giant leaderboard right in front of you. So um, if it's there, I'll look at it. But if I have to go on my phone and look at a leaderboard, I usually won't do it during a round.
Is that your attitude now as a pro playing these mini tour events? Do you have that same strategy, or did it change?
Yeah, even more in pro golf, like no matter what the weather is, what the conditions are, what the golf course is, somebody's always going to go low, and you can never make too many birdies. So just try and go out and go as low as you can. That's kind of the way I've always looked at it.
Now, speaking of making a lot of birdies, back in October, you played Point Judith with a bunch of your URI buddies, and you shot an unbelievable 58 with a bogey, by the way.
Yeah.
That round, obviously, it was an incredible round. What was that? What was that like going through that? Did you know that you were onto something special, or is it one of those things where like you get to the last hole and you're like, "Holy shit, I could shoot something really good here"?
Yeah, it
You
was
know,
it was kind of the latter there. I mean, I didn't have any idea what I was at. I don't even think I was conscious. It was crazy. Everybody that I know that has shot a number like that, they give a I was like blacked out quote, and I mean, it's something you really only experience maybe once or twice in your life. Um, I don't know. I couldn't. I hardly even remember any of the shots that I hit. It was crazy. But yeah, we were standing on the 18th tee, and I looked at the card, and I think I need a par to shoot 59, and 18 at Point Judith is a par five. You got out of bounds left and the entire golf course to the right. So I just said don't hit it left, and was aiming pretty far right there, and hit two good shots. Actually, I mean, I hit a 3-wood at the pin that we saw it bounce, and then we didn't see it again. So I thought I hold it out for 56, but we got up there and it was like probably 15 feet past the hole. But that was an insane day. So
it's so funny. It's so funny that
know.
you said that. And it's not the same, but it's similar. So Will Dickson, he played in the Waterloo Open last summer in Iowa, of all places, and he didn't shoot 59, but he shot like a final round like 61 or 62 or something crazy. He won the tournament by like 10 shots, something ridiculous. And so I texted him afterward, and I said, "Were you thinking like 59? Like, did you know?" And he said the same thing that you just said. It's like he's like, "I had no idea." He's like, "I was just trying to win the tournament and make as many birdies as I could. I didn't even realize what I was actually shooting." But lo and behold,
Right.
he was close to 59.
Yeah,
And
it's
close to a
kind of
course
funny.
record.
It's kind of funny. So I was playing with Bryson Richards and Dawson Jones, two of my really good buddies that I went to Rhode Island with.
Yep.
Two studs. For the first like 15 holes, we were kind of just having a good time out there. We were talking over our putts, like we weren't focused at all because I hadn't seen them in a while. It was the day after I got back from second stage, actually, unfortunately, because I think I shot like one under par for the week and didn't get through. But yeah, I mean, it was the most relaxed round of golf, you could have ever played. And thinking back at it a couple of days after, I mean, I was just putting the ball down and stepping up to these putts, and they were all going in. And I don't know. I've thought of that going forward. Like sometimes, that's when you play your best golf, when you're super freed up and you're not really thinking about the outcome. So that was a really fun day.
Absolutely. Usually when I don't care about the round, it's usually when I
Yeah.
hit like good shots and like make putts. Not that I'm comparing myself to your level of golf. I stink, but the same thing applies generally speaking. You did something on your Instagram account, which is a great follow, of course. But you did something on Instagram a bunch of weeks ago. I think I liked every single video that you posted where you played 3 different balls and you always have like a competition. Now I don't know if that's
Yeah.
something you do to practice or just something you're doing for fun,
Mm-hmm.
but I just thought that was kind of neat. What do you get out of doing something like that? And is that kind of a way to help you practice different shots, different situations?
Yeah, that's a lot of my practice is kind of focused around that, where not necessarily always playing 3 balls, but a lot of times I'll play like a worst ball where, you hit 2 shots and you take the worst ball on every single shot. And, you have to hit, if you're going to make a birdie, you have to make 2 putts on the green. So if you can go low in worst ball, then I've always thought that it's a little bit easier to just go low on your first ball. So yeah, just trying to mix up some practice games. I play a lot of games with my roommates here. They're all pros too, and we all go out to the golf course together. It's just, I think it's more mindful practice rather than, you just go to the driving range and you beat a bucket of balls and you just throw some balls down to the putting green and hit some putts and then you go play. Having a lot more free time now. I think it's easy to kind of get lost in some long practice days where you're a little mindless out there. So we've just tried to make it a little more mindful and kind of focus on what we're doing with some games like that rather than just, going out, just mindlessly messing around. And then, we'll go out and play. We'll do our money games on the course and stuff like that. But yeah, I think we've got a good balance of the practice that we're doing.
How has your practice and preparation changed or evolved from the time you were at URI to now? I mean, how has it? What do you do differently? What do you do the same? Maybe you do it all the same. I don't know. How has it evolved over the years?
I used to hit a lot of balls and not as many chips and putts. So I kind of, when I got to Louisville, actually, I kind of, I would say more my last year at Rhode Island, I kind of flipped it around where I worked on putting a ton, and you have a putt every single hole on the golf course. How often are you got a full, or just like a stock 6-iron in your hand that you hit 100 of them on the range and then you go on the golf course and you hit 1. So, and it's every hole you're putting and you're chipping. So that's kind of where I rotated into doing a lot more of that rather than just beating 7-irons on the range over and over again.
Interesting. I mean, practice is so important, obviously, for anybody, but especially for you guys. And it's interesting to see how you guys, as pros, practice and what people can learn from that. What's next for you? Where can people find you? Obviously, we'll continue covering you, obviously, but where can people find you? What's on the docket for the rest of the season, month, whatever you want to do, whatever you want to talk about?
So yeah, it's been a quiet month. Like you said, all I played in was the minor league tour event over on the East Coast, and then the Tampa Open. I'm playing in the pre-qualifier for the Honda Classic next week, and then it really starts to get going after that. I think I got a couple other Monday qualifiers, a couple more mini tour events down here, and then I'm going out to Scottsdale for PGA Tour Canada Q School first week of April. So I got it all planned up through then, and then in between that, just practicing. So I think I'm looking forward to it, and hopefully it'll go well.
Is the hardest part of being a pro having to book your travel?
Yeah,
tricky.
That was nice in college when food was paid for on the road and you didn't have to book any flights. So I actually got to go do that after this. I got to book some flights to Arizona. So I'm sure that'll be nice and expensive.
Absolutely, probably. A couple of quick hitters, and then we'll get you out of here so you can go book some flights. Obviously, you played a lot of golf. You played a lot of cool courses. What's your favorite course that you played so far in your career?
Favorite golf course so far? Honestly, I'm a huge Shelter Harbor fan. We played that a lot while I was at Rhode Island, and that place is just so cool. Actually, I worked there for a few months. I think it was fall of 2020 when we didn't have the fall season at Rhode Island. I split time caddying there, working bag room, and then they gave us some practice and playing privileges out there, which is awesome. The head pro, Dave Tiedemann, is, the nicest guy you could ever meet. Everybody there was awesome. The par 3 course there, we played that place every single day after work. That place is just so awesome. So I'd have to say that Shelter Harbor is definitely up there at the top of my list.
That's awesome. I'll clip that one and send it to them. I'm sure they'll appreciate it. I've only played Shelter Harbor once a while ago, and it felt like you were playing a video game because everything just looked so
It's
perfect.
it's
Like the
so
grass was
there's
there
not
was
a
not a piece of grass out of place. So
yeah,
it was like, where are we here?
yeah,
Um,
that place is awesome.
uh, your coolest golf experience, to this point, whether it's as a pro or in college, what's a cool golf experience that you can tell people about?
Uh, I'd have to go with a 58. Not many people can say they shot that, and uh, I hope it happens again. But that's not something you can really count on happening again. So I'd have to go with that.
Next time, maybe you can just settle for 59. That'd be that's fine.
I don't know if the 59 will be disappointing, but it probably won't be. I mean,
I I think you'll take it.
yeah, I'll take it.
You,
Never a bad
you
day shooting 59.
you have a go-to shot, whatever it might be. You can say the shot, but
Mm.
what club are you pulling? You have a go-to shot. You're in a tournament. You need the shot. What club are you pulling? What are you hitting?
It's probably just a high cut driver. Just let it rip. It's my favorite club in the bag. So, and when I'm driving it well, I'm usually grooving a little fade with it. So, have to go with that.
Your best story from being a URI golf star is what?
Oof, I got a lot of them. Hmm, my best story. I'd have to go. My first ever golf tournament at Rhode Island. I in junior golf in high school, I loved eating peanut butter crackers, just like the Ritz one.
Mhm.
And we're playing at Bethpage, my first tournament, and Coach Burke's like, "What are you eating?" I was like, "There's peanut butter crackers." He's like, "Never again. You're not eating peanut butter crackers." Apparently, he didn't like them. I don't know. It was like ever since then, I don't think I've ever had a peanut butter cracker on the golf course, and if I did, I made them myself. It must be something with like I don't know, something processed in there. So
That's funny.
that was like my first ever round of golf. I was shunned of peanut butter crackers forever.
That's how your URI experience started. Uh,
Yeah,
it looks like it worked out pretty well for you though, even without
yeah,
the peanut butter crackers. Uh,
yeah.
we have a number of kids, as you might be aware, we have a number of kids that are heading into college. You know, some maybe look to turn pro in the future. Your advice to them would be what? If somebody reached out to you and said, "Hey, Chris, I'm so and so at whatever school, and I'm trying to be a pro. I want to turn pro eventually. I'm trying to.
Mhm.
I'm looking at your path. I'm looking at Davis's path, and kind of how to get there. What and they ask you for advice. What do you tell them?
Yeah, I think one thing I've realized after turning pro is how important the mental side of the game is. I've been doing a ton of like work off the golf course, just trying to think better. And golf is a very mentally tolling game, and if you can, teach yourself how to think out there the right way, and how to just stay really, really mindful of your thoughts and in the present moment. Because everybody's so good, and there's got to be something that separates guys who are where I am versus guys that are, the number one players in the world, guys that are on the PGA Tour. And a lot of times it's just the mental side of the game. So really focus on that, and just if you think you're working hard, just remember that always there's somebody always out there working harder than you. So just just grind it out.
Is the mental side of the game the biggest challenge of being a pro? Because so much happens and around, like you said, everyone's going
100%.
low, everyone's making birdies. Is the mental side the biggest challenge for not necessarily for you, but just in general? Is that what you see out there?
100%. I think it's not getting too high when things are going well, and it's trying not to be too down in the dumps when things aren't going well. Just trying to stay very even keeled. I think if you look at all the guys who are successful in golf, a lot of them are super even keeled. I think Rory McIlroy is a great example. I mean, like he's a guy who just gets it. He's when he's winning a lot, he's very grateful for what he has. He's still very even keeled, and when he plays bad, he's never really showing a lot of emotion, and letting people know that he's playing bad. So it's just staying really grounded and, telling yourself that, just because I'm playing great right now doesn't mean it's going to last. And just because I'm playing poorly right now, that's also not going to last. So just trying to be patient and, stay in the moment. It's kind of what I've learned.
Absolutely. Well, listen, thank you so much for taking a few minutes to talk to me. Really appreciate it. And obviously we'll continue to cover your golf career all the way through. And obviously you have an exciting couple of months coming up for sure. So obviously keep us posted. But thanks so much for your time and best of luck to you and the rest of your pro career.
Thanks, Joe. Appreciate you having me on.
All right, that was my conversation with Chris Francoeur, recorded a couple of days ago. So again, great to catch up with him. It was great. I thought it was a great conversation. Again, he offered a lot of insight on a lot of different things. His story about the peanut butter crackers in his first tournament at URI was pretty funny. So I have to ask Coach Burke what the backstory is on that, but that was pretty good. So if you missed it, obviously the full interview is posted on our website, GolfNewsRI.com. So check that out. Just click the link, and there will also be an audio version of it on Apple and Spotify, as all of our podcasts now are streaming on Apple and Spotify. The audio versions, of course. So check those out too. So thanks to Chris for coming on, and hopefully, have a successful season, successful year, and obviously we'll be following along the way. So that's what we have here on the Golf Dudes podcast. Of course, in the pros, it's the Phoenix Open this week, one of the more fun tournaments of the year. Certainly that 16th hole is must-see TV. I don't know how many, there are a couple hole-in-ones last year. I'm guessing there'll be a few more hole-in-ones this year, but it's a full field. It's a packed event, should be a great leaderboard, hopefully, leading right up to Sunday night, which is obviously the Super Bowl. So a great weekend of golf. Live Golf starts shortly after that, and then obviously you have college stuff in Chatfield and Will Dickson, and a few other things as well. So exciting weekend. Hope everybody enjoys the Super Bowl. My prediction, for whatever that's worth, is the Chiefs win. I know the Eagles, at least on paper, seem like the better team, but I'm predicting the Chiefs win. I think this is a legacy game for Patrick Mahomes. I think he has to win this one. So he's 2-1 in Super Bowls. And so that's my prediction. I think he pulls it out. There's something about him, obviously. And, I think Jalen Hurts is good, but he's not Patrick Mahomes. So I think Mahomes wins this one. I think the Chiefs win. I'm sure I could be wrong. Probably will be, but that's my prediction. So hope everyone enjoys the game. Hope everyone enjoys whatever party you're going to. Hope you have a great time. And we will talk to you next week on the Golf Dudes podcast. Again, stay tuned with us all weekend long for updates on Davis Chatfield, Will Dickson, and various other topics and stories that we are watching for here in this middle of February, here early February, whatever it is. Anyway, so thanks to everyone for tuning in. This is the Golf Dudes podcast, and we will talk to you next time.